Howdy Spacers, and welcome back to Blank Space Dolls. For my Valentine custom, I took a poll on Instagram for what you guys wanted to see in my next video between the options of Couture and Kawaii, and the winner is Kawaii. And with that being decided, let's hop straight into the inspiration for this project. So when I hear kawaii, which is the quality of being cute or items that are cute, I think of pastel colors, rainbows, sweets, and Lolita themed items. And naturally, it wouldn't be a Blank Space Customs without a little fashion inspiration from Australian artists like Tanya Schultz and runway designer Betsy Johnson. This is going to be a really fun custom, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and don't forget to tap that notification bell so you don't miss any of my future projects, and let's get started. For this project, I decided to go with the Mouseades King because I thought that her little ears would match the kawaii aesthetic I was going for, but also because she does have a little sister body type, which I thought would totally match the design that I had in mind for the outfit. And of course, you'll go in with 100% acetone and remove all that factory paint, and I'm just making note of this huge gaping hole that the original reroute left. Then I just lightly draw out a guideline for myself to follow in the rerouting process. For the reroute this time, I'm going to be using this yarn hair, which is actually in pastel colors, and I thought this was the perfect color palette for the idea that I had. And what I actually do is I go in and I snip the colors by chunk for the ones that I want to use, so taking the whites and the yellows out, which I won't be using, and you're left with this hank here. And I'm actually going to go back and refine that a little bit more and cut those into shorter strands so that way I can reroute them and brush them out later. And once those have been cut down to a more manageable size, you're just going to unravel each one, and it's going to give you these 4 mini strands to work with. I begin rerouting with the bangs first, and what you'll need to do is cross over all of those fibers to make sure that there's a seamless part line there. And you'll see here that it's been complete, and you can see that I've tried to focus more of the purple at the front and all of the highlights pushed towards the back. And then you're just going to take your pet brush and begin to brush out those yarn wefts. Be sure that you go slowly and brush all the way from the tip down to the root of the hair using small strokes. Once that's brushed out, this is what it will look like, and then you just go in with your flat iron and it ends up looking just like this. And you'll just go ahead and continue that for the rest of the head. And here you'll see that it's been completely rerouted and the bang is still flat. I did go ahead and add the little teeth in there, which I pointed at. I just couldn't wait because I thought they were so cute. And then I actually did end up going in and adding a little bit of that yellow back here in the ponytails on both sides. You just want to go in with your Fabri-Tac glue to seal those loose plugs in, and here you'll also see that I've styled one side of the hair, and you can see what a huge difference it makes when you brush out and flat iron the yarn material. Then before starting the face up, we're just going to reattach her head to her body. And it's face up time! This is actually my favorite part of the customizing because you can really tell the expression of a character through their eyes. So for this one, I really wanted to make them kind of large and doe-like, and even when I go in later and start filling in the colored part, you guys are going to see they're a little bit wider and more open than my normal previous customs. And let's just take a moment to admire the white of my General Pastel Chalk Pencil, which is my favorite white for the eyes and also for the highlighted areas. It just goes on so smooth. Then as usual, I go in with my hot pink Mungyo Soft Pastel to begin blushing the face and body. And for this custom, I actually didn't do any contouring because I wanted to make sure that she kept that innocent and juvenile face. And I feel like contouring sometimes adds a little bit of harshness and shadowing that I don't really like in my younger or happier characters. I think it's worth noting that I also always blush in the same areas, which is the center of the forehead, the nose, the cheeks, and the chin, and of course around all the joints, right above her chest and right at her neckline. And just for comparison purposes, this is what it looks like before I seal it with MSC. Here's what it looks like after it's been sealed with MSC. Here's what it looks like after layer 2 and I go in with my black watercolor pencil. It's in this layer that I begin to add the iris colored parts of her eye using my purple Derwent watercolor pencil to sketch out the shape that I want. And as previously stated, I did want them to be more opened and dough-like, so I do take up more of the white sclera part of her eye to begin building that color in. And again, make sure you guys know that it does take layers to get the color opacity that you want, so make sure you take your time, do small details, don't expect to fill in the entire eye in that first, second, or third layer even, because you want to make sure that you leave plenty of white space so that way you can go in with multiple colors and create a nice gradation from whatever color you choose in the center to a darker, deeper color on the outside. If you go in one opaque coat, you're not going to give yourself the opportunity to add those gradations of color. You can definitely see here that it's a lot of back and forth, switching out between the colors just to make sure that I'm kind of mixing them where they all meet, because again, that's going to just give it a more realistic and detailed finish. And this is what it looks like once layer 3 is sealed in, and then you just go back in and build those colors all over again. And you'll begin to see in the first few strokes here of the pencil that adding in layers is the best method of execution, just because you're giving yourself that space to really add in those smaller details and build up the color slowly versus going in fully and coloring her eye purple, then trying to go over it with that lighter color later. And this is what layer 4 looks like after being sealed with MSC. I wasn't kidding about the layers. You can see here in layer 5 that the color opacity is finally up to a color level that I like, but you can also see some of the small fine hair details in the iris part of the eye as well. And then I'm actually going to go in with my white acrylic paint to do the eye shine. And then you go ahead and seal that layer with MSC again. And for a little added detail, I go in with this glitterific acrylic paint by Folk Art and add a little bit of the flakes to her eyes. Then we can release her from that festive head wrap, and in the next clip I'm going to show you guys a little trick. Let's go now. The infamous fork bow. You guys will know if you've been with me for a while that I always mention these in my videos, and I thought no time like the present to show you guys how I do it. I actually did find this, and I'm sure there's a more in-depth tutorial on how to do it through Google, and that's actually how I found it. But here I'm just going to show you, and I don't really know how to talk you through it. I think that you just kind of have to watch what I do and mimic it on your own, but it makes the perfect tiny doll-sized bows that you can stick on anything: pigtails, dresses, shoes, purses, anything. I put these things literally on everything. And I do go in with Fabri-Tac glue just to seal the knot, and I actually hold the ends of the bow down just to make sure that when it dries in that shape. And here you'll see them complete. Time for some sweet threads. For this project, I actually used a lot of fabric that I wouldn't normally use, and I picked up a bunch of different prints and textures because I wanted to kind of mix them all together to give that really sweet kawaii aesthetic that I think I was looking for, with a lot of reference to Lolita fashions. I say this in a lot of my videos, but I am not a craftsman of doll patterns. I just kind of freehand all of my patterns and hope that they work, which is probably not the best solution, but I'm sure if you guys are looking for some, there's some really good YouTube tutorials out there that show you how to make great patterns, and I know that you can also buy some on Etsy or DJ Requiem. I'm sure that there's a ton of patterns out there, but again, this is just kind of the method that I use to draw my patterns. So you'll see there, I just traced around the doll's body, and then I draw guidelines for myself where her knees are, where her waist is, right at the widest parts of her hips. And that's just kind of going to give me a guideline where to put the layers of my skirt that I'm creating. And then I just go in and label the lines that I drew, with the hips starting with number 1, going to 2, 3, and 4 is the final layer, with the bottom layer being just the lace trim finish to finish the bottom edge of the skirt. And here I'm also just going to draw some fun little designs to hopefully make it a little bit easier for you guys to see what I'm doing on the white scrap of paper. So to begin creating your skirt, you're going to start with the first layer of fabric that you want to have, which is going to be the bottom layer, and you're just going to fold it in half and measure it from the hips down to the label number 4 right before you get to that lace trim, and this is going to be your bottom layer of your skirt, and you're just going to gather that all the way across. And then you're going to do the same thing with the second layer, except for you're going to measure it from the waist to the number 3 layered on your paper. And for the final top layer, you're going to measure from the waist down to the number 2 on your skirt template. And then here you'll also see I've added this pastel yellow lace trim to the bottom, and this is what it's going to look like when I sew up the skirt pieces. And I also cut out just a basic circle skirt pattern just to attach the actual skirt pieces to. And you can see here that I've begun to assemble the pieces on top of each other, going layer by layer and building up as I go. You'll also see here that I added a little bit of pink lace in between that top layer and the second layer on the skirt, just for a little extra added detail and texture. And then I go in and begin sewing the waistband and overall top to make this skirt into a dress. And please use this video to learn from my mistakes, because I did notice that the waistband got very thick, so I do recommend, instead of folding the fabrics in half, maybe just finish the bottom edges like normal. That way it's a little bit thinner, so I do have to go in and take the waistline in just a little bit by adding 2 little dart stitches on the side of the waist. And for the top, I just created this short sleeve shirt, which I'll then go in later and finish the sleeves with some more lace, and then I just do a lace stitch up the back to tighten it to create a tight little crop top. And I'm just showing here how I laced up the side of the waistband to create a little bit of a tighter fit, and I just have to do the same thing on the other side. Here it is complete once it's all been tightened, and I did add a snap to the back of it just so it was removable later, and here I am just floofing the dress. Then I go in with these pink ribbons to create the straps for the overalls, and I seal the ends with lighters. Please be careful, you do not have to touch the ribbon with the lighter to seal the ends. And to mimic the look of buttons on the front of the overalls, I go in with these flat back pearl nail art gems and add those to the front of the dress. Jumping back up to the head for a second, I do use a mini flat iron and a metal chopstick to add curls to the hair. For some extra details, I go into my craft box and pull out some of these little mini pom-poms and a cute little unicorn bead to make her some jewelry. And these are the 3D lashes that I actually use on all of my younger or sweeter style dolls, and they're actually a set of bottom lashes. For the socks, I used a pair of Kiyomi socks from my stock box. For the shoes this time, I'm going to be using my Getting Ferris Madeline Hatter slippers, and I'm going to customize them to fit my concept. And with those finally being done, we can have a look at the final photos. And there you have it, my sweet pastel Valentine. I had so much fun making her, and she kept me in such a good mood with the colors and all of the fun prints, and I hope you guys like her too. I've decided to call her Lola Love Mouse, which sounds fitting considering she started out as a Mouseades. And to see more fun photos of Lola Love Mouse here, be sure to check me out on Instagram at Blank Space Dolls, where in my world there's always a blank space. Let's customize it together. Until next time, Spacers, see you soon.